establishing a quorum. Who's on the phone?
Dale Nations.
Frank Thorwald.
Bill Feierabend.
Stephen Cooper.
We have a quorum. We'll move forward. Is there any conflicts of interest? Hearing none, let's move on to the next item. Discussion, consideration, and possible vote on our minutes. Dennis, do you want to, is there?
I didn't receive anything requesting corrections or clarification or rewrites. I hadn't heard anything, so I'm recommending it passed as is.
On the December 7th meeting, is there any changes that any of the commissioners would like to make? Do I have a motion on to approve the December 7th meeting minutes?
I move we approve December 7th meeting minutes.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. December 7th meeting minutes are approved. Is there any changes on the December 11th meeting minutes? Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the December 11th meeting minutes?
I move we approve the December 11th meeting minutes.
Second, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The December 11th meeting minutes are approved. On to item 3, Plains LPG. Dennis, do you want to brief us on this?
This is still an evolving issue. I've got learned some more information, which I may put up on the screen here in a minute. But basically, Plains LPG operates what's called the Bumpstead facility, which is in the Luke Air Force Base area here in the valley. They have 3 storage caverns in a salt deposit for storing LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. And our regulations require in 182D a capacity determination, a mechanical integrity test every 5 years. It has been interpreted in the past, and kind of a belief that it's erroneous, that also requires a full-scale workover of the well at the time, which I would like Mr. Olesko, who is on the phone with Plains LPG from Calgary. Mike, can you hear me okay where I'm sitting now?
Yeah, I can hear you fairly well, thanks.
Oh, I can make it so you can hear me better. Okay. All right, so anyway, Mike, I'd like to turn it over to you to present in more detail what your rationale is for requesting that you not be required to do a full-scale workover each time you do these capacity determinations. It's my understanding that you're not asking for a waiver of the rule. It's just that because the rule, frankly, is a tad bit vague, it's not clear, but I think from experience, it's shown that a workover, full-scale workover is not required when you're just running a sonar test and whatever other equipment you may have to drop down the hole for doing a mechanical integrity test. And the rule requires that to be done every 5 years. And you're not requesting a kind of deviation from that. It's just the cost and the safety issues associated with a full-scale workover to accompany that. Does that fairly well summarize it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'd like you to present more detail.
It is believed that, in the past, this rule was misconstrued to mean a full-scale workover, whereas, and it is quite possible that back in the 80s, it was likely that you did have to pull all the tubing out of the well in order to do a proper capacity survey. Another word for that is sonar survey, using sonar technology to measure the features and volume of the cavern. In today's day and age, this is possible through pipe, through the tubing, which negates the need to conduct a full-scale workover. Now, our rationale is in other jurisdictions in the United States and elsewhere, the typical workover frequency is 10 years. During that time, you pull the tubing and inspect the tubing. the wellhead and various components, as well as running a sonar at that time. And after that is conducted, you follow it up with a mechanical integrity test, which is essentially a nitrogen pressure test of the cavern to ensure that the cavern still has integrity. Now, current industry standard is to do a 10-year workover and a 5-year MIT. And we're just proposing that we extend this typical industry standard to Arizona and follow suit. Now, the addition to the work that would be done on a 5-year time frame that we're planning on continuing is conducting a 5-year sonar of the cavern at that time to satisfy the requirement in section 12.7.182 Part D, which says that there's a 5-year capacity survey of the cavern. So current sonar technology allows us to satisfy that requirement, and at the same time, by going to a 5-year or moving the workover to a 10-year frequency, it gives us and others the following benefits. One is it aligns with current industry best practice in other jurisdictions. A second benefit is it reduces cavern outage. If we were only going to do a 5-year MIT and a sonar, the time frame to do that is about 10 days. If we were to do a full workover, that requires mobilizing in a oil and gas service rig, pulling all the tubing out, checking everything, running back in, and that could be as much as 20 or 30 days. So this reduces cavern outage by doing this, which is a benefit to our business stability, but also the continuity and the supply of the products to our customers in Arizona. The third benefit of making this change is when you do move a service rig onto the cavern well, you have to bring the cavern pressure at surface down to 0. This has a geotechnical impact on the salt whenever this happens. Like, this is done in the interest of safety to the crews, so you're not, and the environment as well, because you're not, having the risk of pressure release at surface. But at the same time, it reduces the pressure in the cavern, and because this is a salt deposit, it could contribute to things such as spalling of the roof and wall salt, which is not favorable from an integrity standpoint. The fourth benefit of going to this schedule is it reduces operational safety risk to the crews. During a workover, you require a oil and gas workover rig or a service rig to pull all the brine tubing out of the well, and this is just an inherently higher risk activity. So if you avoid doing that, the more you avoid doing that, it's just inherently less risk to the people working on those crews, and the potential for say other releases during that work, such as spillage of brine. So those are the reasons that we're requesting this, or that we're pushing for this change.
Commissioners, does anyone have a question for him?
I have a question.
Dale, this is Dale. I have a question. This is to the staff, the AZOGCC, the AI, Oil and Gas Commission. Do we have to have a public hearing to consider this?
Not in my opinion. He's not requesting a waiver of the rule. There's no indication. The rule doesn't say anything about this kind of thing. The rule doesn't even say it has that a workover is required. It's been a past default interpretation, as I understand it, by previous administrators. But it's not.
That's fine with me.
It's not a request for a waiver of the rule to do a 5-year MIT or capacity determination.
What's the AG's office say on this?
I just read through it one more time. The term workover is not specifically identified within any part of R 127182. Apparently, it was a previous interpretation by either the administrator, or the board. However, as long as they perform the 5-year sonar to determine each storage cavity, the capacity of each storage cavity, they have met the rule, and he indicated that they intend to still continue using sonar to do that. Then they fall within the guidelines, and I don't think we are seeing a deviation or a different result in reading through the rule. So I think it's appropriate.
Commissioner Firebrand, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. Now, just to review before I ask my question, what we're talking about is instead of doing a makeover every 5 years, you'll do the sonic one at the end of 5 years, and then go through the complete makeover at the end of 10 years, then sonic at 15 years, so on and so forth. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Our plan is to do every 5 years. We'll still conduct a mechanical integrity test as well as a sonar. The integrity test is industry best practice, as well as it's stipulated in a standard CSA 341 for the timing. And then every 10 years we would do the complete workover, which also includes a sonar and a mechanical integrity test.
Okay, so now I get to ask my question, now that we've gone through that. And, obviously aware that, the specialty steels you use on equipment can change through the years, but given the steels and metals that you're using now in the equipment down the hole, is there any sort of general feeling how long that lasts before they begin to be too corroded by brines and salts? Any kind of rough feeling for that?
Yes, so these storage assets have been in operation since the mid-70s, and as part of the workover process, corrosion logging is done every time, and we track that corrosion development, and I'm happy to say that at this specific field, the corrosion advancement is extremely slow. There is brine in the cavern, but without the oxygen, corrosion is extremely slow. There's been a lot of times where we've pulled pipe from the cavern, and that pipe looks almost as good as the day we put it in. So corrosion is extremely slow on the tubulars in these caverns.
Thank you.
I have a question, a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So, Mike, I have a few follow-up questions. You may have said this, but I apologize with all that I'm trying to do and control over here. I may have missed it. In the past or now, do you pull the injection string to do the sonar scan? Or can you do it?
In the past, during the workover, just because of the scheduling of the work, like usually when you pull the tubing and you have the wellhead off, you're doing other inspections on that at that time, so it's a good opportunity while all this stuff is away at the shop getting inspected or coded or something like that. It's a good opportunity to go and run the sonar. So we have done it open hole, so to speak, in the past, just because that's where, for lack of a better reason, it just fits in the schedule nicely. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so then are you saying that you leave the injection string in there and you do the sonar scan through the injection string?
Correct. Yeah. So
I've had
we
some-
would be, yeah, that's correct.
I've had some email correspondence this morning with some folks in Michigan who have, I know you do business there, you have a couple of caverns there in salt bodies there. Bedded salt also, I think. I don't think it's diapiric.
They're bedded salt.
And they say that good sonar can be problematic due to the attenuation of the signal by the dual strings. So did you tell me before that's been overcome by
Yes,
current technology?
that is correct. A lot of times you will have issues conducting proper sonars through two hanging strings. At our facility, we only have the single. We have had issues with dual shooting through two pipes, two concentric pipes or tubing to get a proper image. But at the Bumstead facility, there is only the one.
Okay. Well, okay, I think that satisfies my additional questions.
Commissioner Cooper, you had some questions.
Have we decided yet just exactly what is a capacity determination?
I don't think we need to decide. It's not really defined, but it's basically making sure that the cavern hasn't shrunk in size or that there's been collapse inside the cavern, the salt cavern, so that there's an increase in size. And that's one of the things you have to do every 5 years,
And,
as driven by the rule.
and we're still going to do that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That is mandated, and so is the mechanical integrity test. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, answer my questions.
I think Mr. Cooper, Commissioner Cooper had a question in regards to if we need to vote on this or not. I looked at R 127182I, and it talks about exceptions to guidelines. I don't think this is quite a written guideline. I think it's a previous interpretation by a previous administrator. However, in the interest of ensuring that we move forward, it would be my suggestion to have a vote.
Do I have a motion? Do we have a motion?
I'm ready with one.
Go ahead to Commissioner Nations.
I move to approve the proposal to switch from 5-year to 10-year cycles for workovers at the Bumstead facility, Glendale, Arizona.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you for your briefing.
Okay, there's
Oh,
one other-
thanks for having me, and yeah, I appreciate your time.
Mike, don't hang up yet. So there's one other little sub-bullet there in regards to a caverns 101 presentation.
Yes, please move on to
Oh,
that.
yes.
So Mike, did you want to talk a little bit about that? Because you originally have a different date than April 12th, which I originally put on the agenda.
It could be either March 1st or April 12th, whichever satisfies the commission.
Well, there's nothing on the agenda that would prevent it from being on March the 1st unless there's one or more members of the commissioners that would not be able to attend March 1st, but it would probably be more convenient for you to do it March 1st, as I understand.
Yeah, it's only because there's some other activity going on just shortly before April 12th, but either date I'll make all efforts to make it either date.
Hi, this is Bill. I have a conference to go to, and it is really early March. It's in Toronto, so there's travel time also. If you'll give me till, I'll get with you on Monday and let you know if I have a conflict by March 1.
Anybody else have potential conflicts with March 1st? Dale, are you good for a March 1st Caverns 101?
Yeah, it's okay with me.
We'll probably just patch you in by phone and I'll email you the presentation in advance so that
Okay.
you can hear Mike.
Yeah, and I want to commend the presentation there. That was very good.
Dale, have you been out to that facility?
No, I've not.
I have. Dennis, you've been there too, haven't you?
A few times.
I thought so. Okay, good. We will tentatively say that it will be on March 1st then.
Yeah, and I wasn't asking for a vote, it was just an FYI and making sure that folks could be available.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4, discussion and consideration of and possible vote. Dennis, do you want to talk about item 4?
So, Arizona Energy Partners has a well called the NZOG 17-1, originally drilled in 2005. Has a varied history throughout time up to the present, but basically the commission twice has granted them a 1-year extension of their, we've been calling it temporary abandonment status, but as we've come to learn the distinctions and the definitions of the rule, that perhaps that's not quite accurate, because this well has a potential to produce helium, at least according to the data that they've provided. And so Arizona Energy Partners is asking, and I don't know if you want to make a presentation, that was just a may. You may want to speak, Jamie, but anyway, Arizona Energy Partners is asking for a change from the temporary abandonment status to shut-in status, and would like it to be 5 years, because the current status of TA status expires February 17th, which is before the next meeting. So we need to make a decision today. So Jamie, did you want to speak further to that?
Jamie Hogue with Arizona Energy Partners. There were a few comments I'd like to place, especially given concerns that the commissioners raised with wellbore integrity. First of all, we did provide a cement bod log that was done at the end of 2016 as part of the information to support our sundry notice. In this well, one point I wanted to make, there is surface casing down to 783 feet that was set with over 250 bags of cement, which is a pretty substantial amount of cement for such a small distance.
Jamie, can I interrupt you for 2 seconds? I apologize. The surface casing is to what depth?
Let me give you the exact number, 783
Thank you.
feet.
Thank you, Jamie.
On this well, in the drilling reports from 2005, the Coconino, which is typically of concern for the commission because it contains the aquifer, terminates around 719 feet. So surface casing covers the entire Coconino, obviously with lots of cement. In addition, in the sundry we provided, there are a number of bridge plugs. Obviously I should have indicated there is interim casing down to TD. So it is a completely cased hole, a number of bridge plugs inside the casing, quality cement outside the casing. Just wanted to make sure you had that information available to you.
How many zones are perfed right now?
I believe the perfs that we just did were in one zone. We submitted the paperwork back in 2016 when the TA for this was originally approved.
Yeah,
Let me find it.
Remember, that's why I asked.
Yeah. I know in 2014, there was a prior sundry reported with some initial perforations, I believe, across 4 zones.
Yeah, I remember that sundry notice in 2014.
But the only work that AEP has done was in 2016. They perfed 2 shots per foot over a small zone. And I have it, I just need to find the paper because I unfortunately brought more paper than was probably necessary.
So I'm recommending to the commission that it be approved, but Ms. Chablanc was here a year ago and we talked to him at some length about the need to keep the commission informed of what he's doing with that well, and that actually the way the rule is written, you need to get commission approval before you re-enter the well to do more work or whatever. So I hope that you guys still understand that that's the case. So are you getting if you get a shut-in approved today, and then you want to do more work on it, you just need to give us advance notice.
Correct. Yes, and there was definitely, in transition between administration of the Oil and Gas Commission, a change in procedure that there's probably more done verbally in the past. That's no longer accepted. Arizona Energy Partners understands that we need to file sundries in advance of workovers. And I also wanted to note that it ties directly to this well. We recently signed a long-term supply agreement with Praxair. And included in that press release was indication that we plan to proceed on drilling 2 of the other wells we discussed recently. So you'll be receiving sundries notifications of re-entry in one case and commencement of drilling here, hopefully within the next month or so.
No?
So,
One last comment. I believe previously we'd asked for 60-day notice of changes. If you could maintain that, please, for the future.
yes, we slipped around the holidays, and that I absolutely acknowledge that was our fault. We didn't accommodate the 2-week period around the holidays.
Thank you,
It
Ms.
caused me some scrambling last week to make sure that
Yeah.
we could get ready for today.
Thank you,
The
Ms.
last
Hunt.
week or so before our commission meeting is always pretty hectic for me, so 60 days is very helpful.
Can we just have a summary one more time of what's the vote is going to be? It's going to be to change from temporary abandoned status to shut-in status,
That's right.
and that will extend for 5 years.
She's asking for 5 years.
Okay.
To approve shut-in status as opposed to what's currently temporary abandonment.
This is Dale.
Do we have any public comment first before we get a motion? I'm sorry, Fred.
Oh, I know. Is there any questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Dale.
Yes.
So this is based really upon the gas analysis report indicating that there is a significant percentage of helium in
You can.
the gas stream out of there. So it's based entirely on those analyses. Is there any drill stem testing, any volume testing that was done to determine the commercial value of this well?
Commissioner Nations, there was drill stem testing done, as well as additional testing in 2014. And I believe those test results were previously provided to the commission. And what was interesting about those prior tests is the testing lab noted that there was likely contamination because the test results weren't consistent. So the 2016 test results are now consistent with the initial results from 2005 when they drilled the well. There was a 2014 blip that I think confused everyone, which is why when AEP took over operation of this well, they proceeded to retest the well to determine if the original drill test information was accurate.
And the result was what?
Consistent with the original results when the well was drilled in 2005, which is paying quantities of helium, as well as there are some additional gases that are identified in the gas report, but helium is the one we talk about mostly here.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Can I ask a generic question?
Go ahead.
From the state land department. If you give a 5-year shut-in status, they do some work, say a year from now, does that then cancel out or negate the shut-in status, or do they have to reapply for that all over again once they've done whatever they were doing?
I don't interpret the rule to say that, but they would need to give us advance warning. I think the commission has to approve it. If they want to go in and test and whatever they got to do, I think it's just they got to keep us apprised of what's going on.
So I was wondering how that'll work then.
Actually, I believe they would be subject to other penalties or other, this is Rick Zeiss from the Attorney General's office. I don't want to give the impression that somehow if you have been granted either temporary abandoned status or shut-in status, that you do not have to come back to the board. If you re-enter a well without commission approval, you are subject to various penalties that the commission may consider, and they authorized through 27, I believe 515. There's different enforcement measures that are available. And the reason I bring this up is that in the past, I think there may have been a habit of certain drillers to either make a quick telephone call or go in and re-enter a well thinking, I'm just going to do a few things. However, that is in violation of rule. And before you can re-enter a well that is in either temporary abandoned status or in shut-in status, you have to come back to the commission for approval. That is one of the requirements.
I was following up on that, though. Assuming they did all that and then did some work, would they still have to go back and reapply for shut-in status or
No.
temporary abandonment?
No, there are other mechanisms available for enforcement.
I have a question.
Go
Yes.
ahead, Commissioner Nations.
This maybe goes to Dennis. Do we have a record of the drill stem test that Jamie's talking about?
I believe so. I don't have the file with me, but I recall seeing quite a bit of documentation there. I've seen data results and corroborate what Jamie's talking about as far as a hiccup in the data from 2014 and why they re-entered in 2016.
Do I hear a motion on this?
Well, I move that we change the status of the NZOG 17-1 from temporary abandonment to shut-in status for 5 years.
Second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 The ayes carry it, the motion is passed.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 5, report by the Administrative Council.
This has to do with the jurisdictional issues. We are still doing research on it. My suggestion, real quickly, the question is the jurisdiction of this state and through the Oil and Gas Commission in regards to either federal lands or national park lands. This really stemmed out of the issues in regards to the petrified forest expansions, both the east and west expansions. One of the problems is the east expansion. Congress passed legislation that allowed for that to become federal land, and at the same time actually purchased the land itself. The western properties, they passed the legislation, however, still have not purchased the property. They have began some management, but not overall, nor have they purchased the property. So you have a mix of lands to the west, which I believe encompass both private ownership and some state lands. From our current understanding, those lands would still fall under Arizona Oil and Gas Commission. Now, I know there's some difficulty with Pollard helium out there because they've run into EPA, the National Park Service, which has said you have to come to us for a permit. The difficulty is there is a supremacy clause in the United States that says federal law trumps state law. So in the past, what the Oil and Gas Administrator Dennis Turner has done has indicated that our permit, that being the state of Arizona oil and gas permit, becomes provisional, and that you still have to abide or follow what the National Park Service said. I apologize to Pollard that they're caught in such a situation. However, the United States federal government through the National Park Service somewhat controls in regards to the requirement for permitting, and because the state of Arizona has already approved your permit, my suggestion would be that you should take it up probably with the National Park Service. I wish I had better news for Pollard, but I don't. And that's based upon our research. We're ongoing with it. I have one of our paralegals continues doing research just because this board or this commission interacts so much with lands owned by state land, the federal government, multiple Indian nations, and private property owners. And so the jurisdictional limitations do come forward on a fairly regular basis.
Any questions for Rick?
I'll make a comment real quick.
Well,
Just on this.
Public comment later.
why don't you wait for public comment?
Sorry.
That'll come later. Any other questions for Rick? Okay, moving on to the Oil and Gas Administrator. Dennis?
Well, the first item is just let the commission know that I received from the Auditor General's office back in October that a sunset review has come up again. It's a 10-year cycle right now, which is, I think, the maximum number of years that any state agency gets. And so the only information I have pretty much is it's due October 1st, 2021. I have no experience with sunset reviews directly. I mean, my previous employment at AZOGCC, they went through those, but I was never involved with that kind of thing. I know the commission has been through one. I found a record of it from reports that Steve Rousey had done 7 years ago or something. So all I can say is here we go again. And maybe look at the commission to give me some direction on the past experience and lesson learned and what to do in the future. But I'm just basically letting you guys know officially that that's up for review.
Very good.
I have a suggestion in regards to that. Obviously, we are going to have to do paperwork. We're going to have to file reports. That's my understanding of sunset reviews, my limited. And my suggestion is that
That's the
Oh,
last time around.
oh.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooper.
Is that every Allison's report?
Is that we begin setting some type of timeline, and we report back to this commission on a regular basis
Oh, yeah.
during our meetings, and that Dennis, the administrator, and I will sit down and begin outlining a strategy to go forward so that we have a timely report submitted prior to the due date of October 1st, 2021.
I do have electronic records and some of my own records, so you may have something in addition here, or maybe it'll just be a duplicate, but I appreciate you giving me that.
That was everything that was supplied to me. Now, there may have been some other, there may have been the application itself. I don't know if I have a copy of that, but it was during the time basically when the administrator had retired, and so as they said, I think Mr. Allison took the lead on that and basically did, and I learned more at that meeting than I did all the years I've been on the commission about what we do.
So it was in 2015 then?
Yeah, it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a lot longer back than that.
There's Dale.
Well, then it's not a 10-year cycle. It's due 2021.
It may only be currently 6 years. However, that may be just so they begin getting the information. But I think we'll probably have to look into that a bit.
Sorry.
The suggestions for the AOGCC website.
Well, given the time and the subject matter still to be addressed, it's going to be a little bit involved. I would recommend, unless Dr. Nations has other ideas, that we just table that. It's a work in progress anyway. Dr. Nations and I are working on some additions to the website on the homepage, not really major changes, but just more technical information to be available to the public on geology and oil and gas, that kind of stuff.
Commissioner Nations, I'd like to table that to our next meeting. I think there's some other things that are going to come up too that will affect that as we move forward, if that's all right with you.
I'm in complete agreement with that.
Okay, great. The sundry notices.
Likewise, that's a work in progress. All I'd be able to do today is really talk about it. I'd rather have somebody to show you, probably email you in advance. So I'd recommend tabling that also.
Okay, hearing no objections, do I have any, is there anybody that would like to hear that, or is it all right from the other commissioners to table that until the next meeting?
Table.
Okay, then hearing none, we'll move on to the report by the chairman. I really don't have anything to report at this time other than the activities with the IOGCC are moving forward, and that's about it. Legislation, number 8, legislation affecting the Arizona Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. I've understood that there is a bill that's been put forth. I do not have a copy of that. I just got that from DEQ today that was told about that, so I'll bring that up as needed. Dennis may send out a special notice, or Rick, with respect to that. Is there any other things besides that anybody knows about? Okay. Let's move on to the call to the public. Now's your opportunity.
And if you could state your name.
Please come forward and state your name.
Excuse me. Joshua Pollard Helium. I just want to thank everybody on this federal state issue. I appreciate the time y'all put into it. We're working right now with Department of the Interior. This role is actually on the chopping block right now from an executive order, so I just appreciate everybody's work on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment from?
Jamie Hogue with Arizona Energy Partners. Later on the agenda, you had proposed revisions to a rule identified as a potential dialogue that the commissioners might have. On behalf of AEP, I'm hoping there will be a broader dialogue than just about artificial stimulation when it comes to the commission's rules. I think a number of us stakeholders would love to have a conversation and compare Arizona's rules to those of other states that are more active oil and gas extraction states, and maybe see if there's some opportunities to improve the rules, make them more efficient. And that's my own comment. Just want to throw that out there in case it comes up.
Thank you.
Anybody on the phone that wishes to participate? Is Lisa Test on the phone?
Mike here, I'm still on the phone, but yeah, I'm listening in.
Okay, review, and we'll move on then to number 10, review and consideration for future meeting agendas. And we've obviously already talked about the two items that we've tabled to the next meeting. Is there any other items?
Well, the Caverns 101 may be on the 1st of March also, but stay
Okay.
tuned for that.
Okay, anything else? Any announcements?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner.
I'd sent a link that I'd received the other day in a conversation. As you know, Congressman O'Halloran has been appointed to the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which is a big win for the state of Arizona. We now have a voice there. And the magnitude of that appointment is my understanding that in the House of Representatives, 50% of the bills go through that committee. I've invited Congressman O'Halloran, whenever he's back in Arizona, to perhaps come to a meeting or after a meeting have lunch with us so we could talk to him. And I've also suggested that of the 4 commissioners, 3 of them would be a very good reference for issues involving energy. The one not be a good reference would be me, because basically I don't have the experience that the other commissioners have. But I've encouraged him to do that, and because of the government shutdown and the big budget the state of Arizona gives us, if I got to spring for lunch to do it, I'll do it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Cooper. Anything else before we go into executive session? Hearing none, we are now, do we need a vote to go into executive session? Okay. Do I hear a motion for us to go into executive session?
Move we go into executive session.
Second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 We are in exec.
Aye.
We are in exec.
Aye.
We are in exec.
Aye.
It's on now.
Bring food.
I went outside and checked. There is nobody from our previous meeting outside waiting for us to move back out of executive session. So,
By the way, we were offering chips out there.
oh God, food. All right, don't put that in there. We're back in. So, what's next, Frank?
Do I hear a motion for a vote? Do I hear any motions?
Dale, you're good at this.
So we need a motion now to deal with the adoption of the changes in the rules, right?
Yes. So it's
And moving that forward to send the exception to the governor's office and then out for
Okay. All right, I'll try it now. I move that we accept the revisions to R12-7-101 and R12-7-117 as adopted by the Oil and Gas Commission in the January 18th, 1919 meeting, and to be forwarded to the Natural Resource Policy Advisor. So that's part of it. So can we act on that one first?
yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any abstentions? Chairman abstains. Motion carries.
Of course, I move also another motion to accept in that same meeting, Oil and Gas Commission meeting of January 18th, 1919.
2019.
1919. Oh, 18. Okay, and forwarding the request for exemption from the rule-making moratorium to the Natural Resource Policy Advisory.
Second? Is there a second out there?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. The chairman abstains. Motion carries.
Now we need a motion to end the meeting, I believe.
Yes. I move that, I make a motion that we end the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Aye.
Okay, it carried.
Motion, meeting is done.
Squeeze out of here, huh?